So we don't make threads to sit idle, right? So we don't make threads to be idle. So what we will do, we will wherever we are identified, okay, the thread is idle, so we don't make thread to be idle. We will just um, use asynchronous, right? Or else we will use assign the some other task, right? So we will assign some other task. So he will go and get the task complete, right? So we will go and get that task completed. Or else we will give it to a child thread, right? So or else we will give it to a child thread, and that child thread will complete the task and will notify us back, right? So that child thread will complete the task, and he will know that the child thread will notify the actual thread saying that the task is completed, okay, and that main thread will give the response back, right? The main thread will give the response back. So like this is how it will be. So you get the request from the client, okay, you get the request from the client. So you have a thread pool, right? So you have a thread pool where a couple of threads are created, right? So the default thread pool size is 200 in the Tomcat. So there are 200 threads will be created. Fine, let them. Okay. But what will happen when you just when there is a request comes? So this first thread will go and pick the request and it go and process it. Okay. And so there is some in between, there is some DB call coming to the picture, right? So in between the DB call coming to the picture. So when it sees that, okay, there is some delay, right? So there is some latency. So instead of sitting, making this thread to be idle, so it will create some other thread, right? It will create child thread automatically. Okay, it will create the child thread automatically, and it will say, okay, can you please sit here and wait until the DB gives the response back, and once the response given back, okay, notify me, okay, notify me. So meanwhile, this thread will go and collect another task and try to do it. Okay, okay. If this thread one, right? So this is thread one, and this is child thread. Okay, and again thread one is went and pick another task, right? So thread one pick another task. So if thread one is not able to take it, so for example, thread one is doing some other job, right? So this child thread won't wait until the thread one is completing the task. It will go and give this task to the main thread pool, some other thread. So whatever the thread is idle in this thread pool, so it says that, okay, one of your group, right? One of your family group assigned this task. I am done with the task. Can you please give the response to the client, right? So that maybe thread 2 or thread 3, whoever, thread 200 or thread 500, whoever is idle, so they will take that response and give it back, right? So we cannot guarantee which thread will take the request and which thread will give the response back in this reactive programming. Okay, so the threads are going to be used efficiently. So there is no thread idle concept in the there is no thread idle concept in the reactive program. Okay, so let me quickly recap what is going to happen. So you get the request, right? So this is actual request, and there is a thread one, right? So there is a thread one which is going to pick that request, and in between, if is there any DB call or some other service call where the actual thread is going to be sit idle. So it won't sit idle. It will create a separate child thread, and it will say that you sit idle and get the task complete. Okay, you just sit idle and get the task completed. So once the task completed, let me know or let my group know, right? So what is the thread group? So this thread group, right? Server thread. So if I'm able to do it, I can complete. If I'm not able to do, let's inform group. So any one of the free thread will take that request. Any one of the free thread will take the response and give it to the client who requested it. Okay. So we will lively see that. Okay. We will lively see whenever we are writing our client code, right? So we are planning to write multiple services, right? And we are going to invoke that from a client program. So that is again a reactive programming. Okay, so that time I will show this the same concept. Okay, I will log the threads information in the console, and I will show. So there is one thread which takes the request, and when it is making some other service call, it's going to be run by some other service, and again the group would response, right? The accumulated response will be given back to the thread group, main server thread group, and that server thread will be giving the response back to the client. Okay, so this is how the things are going to work in the reactive programming. Okay, as a developer, you no need to take care about any threat creation, threat management. It's already available, right? So it's part of reactive programming. Whoever is going to write the reactive programming, right? So Tomcat server or some other framework, that Tomcat or some other framework, they are going to implement. Okay, they are going to implement this kind of mechanism. So not making the thread to idle and creating the thread to execute the subtask. And once the child thread completes the subtask, it will automatically notifies server thread group, and that server thread group will give the response back, right? So that server thread group, thread will give the response back. So this is how the functionality should be, and it's not part of writing the service or writing the development. So it should be part of the framework itself, right? So Spring framework itself, this will be there. So let me quickly go to Spring framework. So there is a separate module is available. Okay, so that is what is Spring Web Flex, right? So there are two sections: Web Servlet, Web Reactive. Web Servlet is Spring MVC, and Web Reactive is Spring Web Flex, right? So what is the project name? Spring Web Flex. So Spring Web Flex is a reactive programming framework, right? So Spring Web Flex is a Spring reactive programming uh, framework. But anyway, we don't directly jump into that level. So before that, we will learn some of the fundamentals, right? So some of the fundamentals. So where is this? What is the starting point? And there are some gaps with respect to Java in this reactive programming, and how Java overcome that problem, right? How Java overcome that problem, and what is the Java support, right? So we are talking Spring, okay, it's fine, but what is the Java support, right? So Oracle JDK support for this reactive programming, okay? So there are few confusions with respect to this reactive programming, and there are so many frameworks like libraries are available. And if you are writing is microservices, if you are writing a microservices using Spring, and what is the learning curve, right? What is the learning path, and what library you are going to learn, and how many libraries are there, what is that naming convention, and how the data is going to be manipulated in this reactive programming, right? So that is what we are going to learn. So it is not just straightforward WebFlex programming, because that is pretty easy. Okay, as we are already learned Spring MVC, so learning Spring WebFlex is a piece of cake. But before that, there are some other things. Okay, but before that, there are some other things. Okay, so I hope you got right. So why we need a reactive programming in the projects?
Sunil, I have one question. Anyways, what you are saying is the request which we are getting from client will be handled by two thread pools. One thread pool will be the thread pool which gets the request, and wherever we have this blocking, that time it will create a child thread and do that. So again, we are not uh, doing anything, right? Again, it is the same. Instead of main thread, it is going to be handled by a child thread. So I don't understand what is the benefit we are going to get out of it.
Okay. So if you are creating a thread pool, right? If you are creating the thread pool, you will create a number of threads irrespective of this thing, right? But when it is coming to the reactive programming, so it is just one benefit what we are discussing. Okay, one benefit we are discussing, and there are a couple of benefits we have, right? So there are a couple of benefits we have. We will discuss. But to answer your question, what is the exact benefit you are going to get? So this is the framework managed thread pool. Okay. So there is no guarantee saying that, okay, when there is exactly blocking is there, then only it's going to be executed by separate thread. Okay. Only blocking. When the worker thread will come into the picture, because when there is a blocking is there. So if there is no blocking, then it's going to be the main server thread itself will be taking care. Okay, so and another thing is it's a framework managed and it's a server managed, so developer no need to take care about asynchronous. Okay, so as a developer, you should not take care, you should no need to take care, right? So you no need to take care about this thing. And the main complex problem, right? if you implement this multi-threading, for example, let's go to the simple diagram. Okay, like this. It is a simple DB call. There is one request came and it's a simple diagram. If you manage by using main child thread, right? If you manage by using by a child thread, so how you will write the code? Anyway, Java 1, yeah, in Java 1.0 to Java 1.1.5, it's a runnable, right? It's a runnable, and what you will do, you override run method, right? You override run method, and you just execute this run method asynchronously. But we cannot get anything from this run method, then you go for execute service. Anyway, this is not suitable, then go for executor service, right? Executor service, fine. But executor service also, we don't have features like clubbing multiple responses, right? So then you say, okay, 1.8 we got completable feature, okay, then you say completable feature. But the problem with this completable feature also, okay, you can get the task completed by separate thread, right? You can get the task completed by separate thread, but you cannot give the response back, right? So this one, so once the child thread completes the task, how can you notify server thread to give the response back, right? This part you cannot implement, right? So you can make it, you can get it executed by separate thread, fine. That is asynchronous process. So you don't know when that response is going to come back, but in completable feature you can come to know. But when you call get completable feature dot get, what will happen? You know, the thread which calls this get, right, will be blocking until that get is completed. Okay, so that whatever the thread which is calling that get will be in blocking state. So your main thread will wait until this child thread completes the task. Until this child thread completes the task. So we don't have a feature like, okay, so this three thread one gives the task to the child thread and it goes and pick another task, right? It goes and pick another task. No, that feature is not available in Java. Okay, so and one more thing, once the child thread completes the task, it has to notify this thread group, main server thread group, right? So this feature itself is not there. So what you are thinking, okay, I can complete it by using a separate thread, that's fine. But your main thread, your T1 thread will be waiting state until your child thread completes the task. It won't go and pick another task. Okay, it won't go and pick another task. But one thing you can do, you can execute multiple calls parallel, right? You can execute multiple calls and your main thread will sit idle until this two, like couple of calls completed, and it will give a grouped response. That is what is asynchronous. It is not reactive. So reactive is different, asynchronous is different, don't get confused. Okay, so if it is asynchronous, what will happen? There is a one request came, thread one is going to take that request, and when it sees that, okay, I need to make a DB call, you create a child thread, but until the child thread completes the task, your main thread will be sitting idle. So what is the benefit? Why we are going asynchronous? Okay, it cannot be as one DB call, it can be multiple calls. So those all can be done parallelly. Those all calls can be done parallelly, and finally it's going to return, right? So finally it's going to return the grouped response, right? So it's okay, even though it's asynchronous program, so the request is going to be taken care by T1 and the response is going to be given back by T1. Then where is the asynchronous is coming? Okay, you are writing multi-threading here to complete the tasks right? You to complete the tasks using multiple threads. Okay, but your T1 thread still idle, right? So that is what is the example we discussed, right? Okay, you are recruiting multiple employees, right? You are recruiting multiple employees. That is not the solution, because each thread will complete a task. Each thread will complete the task. So again, your main employee, right? So you need to recruit 4 employees here. Okay, so your base employee will always be there. Okay, he will collect that, he will collect the response from all these people and he will report it. So this employee is sitting idle, right? So if this employee is a main thread, then again your response time will not be increased and you cannot use your threads efficiently. Mainly this server thread group has to be execute tasks parallelly. Okay, main problem is server thread group. They are costly,
Yeah,
right?
so this is something which is to handle, like efficiently share the server thread request, not the background like what we do in Java multi-threading.
No, that is there. Java
Mm,
multi-threading is still there. That asynchronous
mm.
process is still there. Okay, but this is reactive means what will happen? We will never make any thread to sit idle. It can be a server thread or it can be a worker thread. Some thread has to do something at a time.
Okay.
Okay, but main focus
Yeah,
is
yeah,
server
got it.
thread because they are costly.
Yes, Sunil, got it. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. Uh, okay, so um, yeah, yeah. So now let's come back and see what exactly went wrong with respect to Java in this reactive programming. Okay, so let's go back to the Java release history. We could say Java made a blunder mistake with respect to reactive programming. Let's see the version history when these versions are got released. Okay, so usually Java used to have a 3 years release before, right? Before Java 1.9. So they used to have like every 3 years a release, right? So before that it was too bad anyway. Like see, the major first it's like 1996 and the major release is like 1.5 2004. Okay, and 6 7 are not that much considerable releases. 8 is a major release, right? So it's almost like 10 years, right? It's almost like for 10 years Java to release the major version. Okay, and that is also fine, but the next biggest problem is this. Okay, so when the other technologies are competing, Kotlin, Groovy, Python, they are Go language, those technologies are grabbing market. So Java is really made a mistake. They took a lot of time to release the feature, right? Java 9 took 3 years. So that is what is the blender, right? So that is what is the place where the main difference it show. Okay, yes. Now anyway, from now the world is stick to Java 8. Still they are with Java 8. Okay, so they would have released some subversions and introduced this reactive programming before other people introduces. Okay, why I'm saying that? Because reactive programming is not part of Java. Okay, reactive programming it's not part of Java. So let's assume that we are using Java 1.8. Anyway, we are using Java 1.8 only. Okay, so if you are using Java 1.8, so and you are going to use reactive programming in your code. Okay, reactive programming in your code. So it is it is it means like we are not using Java reactive, right? It's not from Oracle. So it's from some third party, right? It's from some third party. So what is the that some third party is a org reactive streams, right? So there are people like who is using Java a lot in their companies like Netflix, Google, Microsoft, right? Netflix, Google, Microsoft, Twitter, right? So these kind of companies took this responsibility, right? So these reactive streams introduced by a completely a third party, right? Called org reactive streams, right? Like mainly like Netflix, Twitter, right? Twitter, Netflix, Microsoft, Google, right? These people, okay, thought okay, there is no reactive programming in Java. So instead of going and negotiating with Oracle people, we will introduce our own library, right? So that is what is the reactive stream API. Okay, so reactive stream API. So it's not part of JDK. So you need to add some external charge to get benefit of this reactive programming. Okay, so But anyway, later point of time Java realized, okay, so when they realized after 3 years, when they introduced Java 9, they realized that okay, reactive programming is going to play a major role in this uh, software industry. So it should be part of JDK, right? It should be part of JDK, but it was too late, right? It was too late, almost 3 years, right? So almost 3 years, not almost 3 years. You know, people expected that reactive programming should be part of JDK 1.8, okay, but it was not. You know, it was not part of JDK 1.8. At least you know the reactive programming is nothing but there are only four interfaces. At least Java would have introduced those four interfaces, right? At least this package, there is a class or there is a package which is going to contain those four interfaces should be there in the Java 1.8. But anyway, before that itself, Java 8 introduces by that time. I mean, once the Java introduces, these people quickly implemented this concept, okay. And reactive programming is minimum JDK version we need is a 1.8, and most of the reactive code is a functional code. Most of the reactive code is functional code. So whatever we discussed on daily basis, you have to practice, otherwise you cannot understand reactive programming. And for sure future is going to be reactive programming. Like, you see, right, Java itself understood the importance of reactive programming, and they adapted it, right? So they adapted it. But anyway, we are in Java 1.8, so we are going to use third-party library called Reactive Stream API. It's an API, so no implementation. All these are interfaces: process, publisher, subscriber, and subscription. Process, publisher, subscriber, and subscription. Okay, so this is an API. So who provided implementation? There are so many software like providers are implemented this API. So like Akka Streams, MongoDB Reactive, RadTag, Reactive Rabbit, okay, Reactor, RX Java, Vertex, okay. So maybe couple of people would have heard a word like Akka Streams, right? So Akka Streams, it's an implementation of Reactive API. But don't worry, Java started adapting, right? So Java adapted this one. Maybe next couple of years Java will be powerful, hopefully, okay. So for sure Java will come back and will overcome all these third party libraries, okay. But anyway, these are Java, but not with Oracle. So they are not like considerable like standard, right? So they are not considered as like standard because they are third party, okay. Even Spring also not standard, right? So it's not from Oracle, but the world is using, right? Yes. So something like that it is, right? But we are not going to learn all these things. We are going to learn majorly two, right? So one is a reactor, and the another one is a RX Java. One is a reactor and another one is RX Java. So these two are two different implementations for this reactive API, right? So reactive API. So this actually name like sounds like reactor, but it's like it is actually a project reactor, right? So project reactor. So project reactor is this project from Spring, okay. Project reactor, it's from Spring. So you see the project reactor.io. So Spring people developed this project, okay. So it's a core library. It's a core library. Spring Web Flex built on top of this project reactor, okay. So it's completely different, okay. Project reactor is completely different, okay. So when as we are writing Spring microservices using Spring, that's why we are learning. But there is another famous third party library is available called RX Java, right? Reactive X, okay. Reactive X. RX Java is nothing but Reactive X, okay. So these two are two different. Project Reactor is different. Reactive X is different. So Project Reactor has only Java and Kotlin support, only Java and Kotlin support at this point of time, and it's from Spring Boot. It's from Spring Boot. Okay, so the classes and the interfaces which are present in Project Reactor are different, and the classes and the interfaces which are present in Reactive X are different. So the major difference between Project Reactor and ReactiveX, Project Reactor supports only Java and Kotlin, but whereas the ReactiveX is going to be supported by multiple languages like C Sharp, Scala, like Clojure, okay, and RxShift, Microsoft also, even .NET also is going to be supported here. Okay, C Sharp, right, RX.NET. Rx Java, RxJS, okay, Rx Scala, Rx Closure, right? So if you would like to learn Scala and all, then we are going to use this one, ReactiveX. Okay, so but we are going to write our code, right? The main application itself, the Spring Boot application is itself is a reactive programming. So we are going to focus only on Project Reactor. But there are some other third-party library, right? ReactiveX is much famous than Project Reactor. But anyway, you can't write a framework because this is a library, right? So ReactiveX is a library. So you cannot write a Spring Boot application using ReactiveX at this point of time. Maybe in the future, Spring Boot may adapt this library also. Not I mean I'm not sure, but at this point of time, so Spring is going to support Project Reactor. Okay. So why we are saying like that? Because project, if it is a reactive Rx Java, right? If it is Rx Java, okay, if it is Rx Java, then the terminology is different. So you might hear like observable. The people who worked on Angular or JavaScript, they might have heard this word, right? Observable. um, I think subscribe, okay, subscriber. So this is what is the terminology. Okay, observable, subscriber, like that you might hear some terminology. But when it is coming to Project Reactor, right, it's our Project Reactor. So Project Reactor from Spring. So here the naming convention is different. So here we hear, I mean, you hear word like mono, flex. Okay, mono and flex. So these two are two different libraries. There is no relation at this point of time. So when you go and search in the Google Project reactive programming in Java, like most of the tutorials, they write code for this Rx Java. So observable, okay, subscription, but that won't work in Spring. Okay, any example you go and open, any example you go and open, and you see observable, react, observable, right, observable and subscriber, but that is not the scenario. So project Reactor is going to have a different class structure. Okay, so in high level it looks something like this. Okay, so the base framework is reactive streams, and in this under this we have many implementations. One is a Project Reactor from,
Some noise is coming in background.
just a moment. I hope it is good now.
Yeah.
Okay, Project Reactor, it's from Spring, and another one is Rx Java, right? Rx Java. Rx Java built by so many companies. If you go and see community, it's a very big community, right? So GitHub, Twitter, there are so many people who contributed uh, to this program. Okay, so there are so many companies. Yeah, Microsoft. Okay, we need to talk about Microsoft a lot because Microsoft is a company who is using this reactive programming for so many years. Okay, so Netflix, GitHub, SeatGeek, right? So Couchbase, yeah, this is one of the famous NoSQL DB, and Trello. It's an Airbnb. Internally, some Google also contributed something. Okay, so but it is not listed here, but that is fine. Okay, yeah. So Microsoft is considerable because the complete concept, the entire concept itself is taken from Microsoft. So Microsoft is having this feature since for so many years. So it's part of their .NET framework, right? So it's part of their .NET library. So reactive programming is already there. Okay. and so these people contributed, right? So we don't have Oracle here. That is what is bad. So at least Oracle should be there along with this, but anyway, it's not there. Fine. So project reactor only from Spring, right? It's only from Spring, but it's like, yeah, you see, right? It's like some toolkit also available. I think they are merging with RX Java also. Okay, because Spring can't alone implement all the features. Okay, so once we went into the reactive programming, it's end-to-end reactive, right? So it's end-to-end to be reactive. Even database also need to be reactive, right? So Oracle people, JDBC, right? Oracle introduces JDBC. Again, they are doing the same mistake. So JDBC is a blocking API. So at least they would have introduced some RJDBC, React to JDBC, and at least the API should come from Java, not the full implementation. At least the API before these people introduces this thing. So Java should introduce, because Java means it's a specification and standard, and the API, we are going to, I mean, we can think it won't be changing that much fast. Okay, why I will tell why people follow the specifications. Okay, why people interested using Oracle JDK instead of this third party libraries. Okay, um, I hope you might have heard like Angular. Okay, so Angular came into the market with the version 1.0. Okay, and they said it's going to be super fast, super powerful. Upgrade, and change it to Angular. Okay, some marketing they did, which because it's from Google. Okay, so people believe, okay, trust Google, right? All of a sudden, they released one more version called Angular 2.0. Okay, earlier it used to called Angular JS. Okay, Angular 1.0 called Angular JS, and they introduced one more version called Angular 2.1. They called it as Angular. Okay, fine, it's another version like that, we will think. But the code, whatever we are writing in Angular 1, right, and in Angular 2, there is a huge change. And all of a sudden, Google said, okay, don't use Angular 1 and use Angular 2. Okay, it's not that much easy, upgrading from Angular 1 to Angular 2. It's a huge change, and the complete architecture, model, everything got changed. Okay, it's like fully TypeScript they have to use, and the complete model itself, it's got fully changed. Okay, so we will get these kind of problems when we use these third parties, right? So third party software is risky because we don't know when they will stop support. Okay, when they will stop the support, and they will they will do the changes, like all of a sudden they will stop backward compatibility, right? So we don't have any backward compatibility from Angular 2 to Angular 1. So anything needs to be done, you have to do it in Angular 2. So there is no backward compatibility. Okay, so so these kind of challenges will come, right? So that is the reason why this world is expect. Okay, any Java feature, if it is from Oracle, okay, we can think, okay, it's going to be some standard, right? So when they are doing the changes, they will consider the people already using Java, so how they are going to adapt. And they will also consider how how the backward, I mean the older versions are going to give the support for this new feature, right? So they will consider all these things. Okay, so they will consider all these things. So any feature coming from Oracle, it's good to learn because it's a specification and it sets a standard. Okay, but anyway, before Oracle introduces, I think Spring and all these people will provide solution for JDBC also. Not sure. At least if it is part of Oracle JDBC API, it would be good. Okay. Yes. Let's come back. Okay, so now it's completely outside of the Oracle, I mean Oracle JDK, and it's going to be a third-party library, and we have different implementations, and we have different methods and different implementations, right? At least the one common thing is, if you learn publisher, subscriber, subscription processor, like you can get some idea about this project reactor and RX Java. Okay, so this is what is the with the JDK 1.8. So we are going to use third-party libraries, Then all of a sudden Java realizes, oh, there is some huge mistake we did, right? So reactive programming is going to play a major role in the upcoming days. So it should be part of Java, right? So all of a sudden, what Java people did, they announced that okay, Java is going to support reactive programming, and all your libraries should start supporting. Okay, so all of a sudden Java coming to the picture and said that okay, hey, I'm okay. Java, when I said Java, it's from Oracle. Okay, so Java is going to support reactive programming. Okay, so okay, they are they are okay, they are just looking at Oracle people, and okay, they are thinking what these people gonna do, because they already implemented it, right? So it's already there with JDK 1.8 itself. But Java 9 releases and they said, hey, it's a celebration, Java is going to do reactive support. Then these people are silent because they are already using it. Okay, they are already using it with JDK 1.8 itself. So what Oracle people, Oracle did, it's like not much difference. Okay, whatever you are doing, it's going to be there in Java. Okay, so it's not something new. It's already there. But the only thing is, it is just a simple package difference, right? So the methods and the methods and the API standard, it's going to be the same. Whatever we have in the reactive streams, it's going to be there in the Oracle also, but it's not like org reactive, right? So it's org reactive streams processor, it's org reactive publisher. No, not like that. So Oracle has its own package structure, right? So com.java.util.concurrent, so com.java.util.concurrents. Okay, so there is outer class. So this is what is in Java, right? So package java.util dot java.util dot, I think it's a flow, okay, flow, and let me check the exact package. Java 9 flow. Yeah, java.util.concurrent. Okay, java.util.concurrent. So it's like public class flow. Okay, public class flow. So we can write interfaces inside a class, right? So yes, we can do it in Java. So this class is going to have 4 sub interfaces, right? So it's like public static, okay, public static publisher. Yes, so this is one interface, and another interface is subscriber. I think this is small subscriber, and next we have subscription. Okay, and then we have process, right? We have processor. Let me check. So there are mainly 4 sub classes, right? Processor. Okay, so these are the 4, but these are already there in reactive already, right? So these are already part of reactive: processor, publisher, subscriber, right? Subscription, right? So it's the same thing: publisher, subscriber, subscription, processor, right? So if I put it in the same manner, then it makes more sense, right? There is nothing new with Java 9, so they simply copy pasted those files and changed the package, right? So processor, publisher, subscriber, subscription, right? So there is nothing changed here, right? So then all of a sudden these people celebrated the party, because, right? So they are also happy because they no need to do change, right? Lot of changes. It is just a simple package change for them, right? So it's a simple package change, and moreover, so they don't do any changes, right? So the base reactive stream API itself is going to adapt Java 9 Flow API. So if you go to reactive streams, okay, reactive stream API, so the home page itself, they'll show Java 9. The home page itself, they will show Java 9, but this is not is what happened, right? So it's there Java 8 also, this is there. With the Java 9, the reactive stream API release is going to be 1.3. Okay, so it's 1.3, 1.0.3. But we have 1.0.2, 1.0.0, 1.0.1. 1.0.2 is a JDK 1.8 compatibility. Okay, so 1.8, 0.2 is a JDK 1.8 compatibility. So, but still, they don't want to get any conflicts from Java. So they're from their home. I mean, this is not part of JDK Oracle, right? So it's a third party. So they are giving anonymous, right? So anonymously they are supporting JDK 1.8. So they itself they are telling, okay, use JDK 9, right? So use JDK 9, but not required JDK 8. Using JDK 8, still you get the benefits of reactive programming. Okay, so using JDK 1.8 itself, you can get the benefits of reactive programming. We don't need JDK 1.9. But due to these changes, Java 1.9, we will think that okay, from JDK 1.9 we have reactive support. Okay, no, not like that. From 1.8 itself we have the support, but we are going to use third party library. We are going to use third party library. Okay, yes, so that's what it's going to be, right? So same thing, but you can ask me, okay, today we are using JDK 1.8 and tomorrow if we upgraded to JDK 1.9, do I need to do the code changes like this? Right? So you no need to do, because the underlying library, right? The third party library is adapted Java 1.9 Flow API. So if I go to um, uh, this documentation, right? So there are new classes, right? So Java API, if you go to Java API, so there are new classes are introduced. There are new classes are introduced called flow adapters, right? So these flow adapters will take care, right? So the flow adapter will take care about converting Java Flow API into, right? So java.util.concurrent.flow processor, java.util.concurrent.flow publisher, java.util.flow.subscriber, right? So this is how it like. So if I change it to 1.2, 1.0.2 in the header, right? So in the address bar, if I change it to 1.0.2, so there is no word like Java. It's like fully ORG reactive streams. Okay, I think there is no flow adapters, right? So I can remove this and I can, okay, let's put Java doc. Okay, yeah, so we don't have flow adapters. So this 1.0.2 is going to work fine, right? So 1.0.2 is going to work fine with JDK 1.8, right? So 1.0.3, if you use 1.0.3, then we need JDK 1.9. Okay, so at least they would have introduced these four interfaces in JDK 1.8. So we would have been using, right, all these publisher subscriber subscription from JDK 1.8 itself, part of JDK, that they are supposed to be part of JDK. But anyway, so it was not happen. But if you would like to use Java reactive programming, then minimum version of Java is required, 1.9. But anyway, third party, by using third party library, we can use Java 1.8. But anyway, now this Java changed a lot, right? So they are coming up and releasing. I mean, they have a release for every 6 months, right? For every 6 months, there is a new version is getting released. So whatever they are completing, they are releasing, right? So at least they would have started from JDK 1.8. The world is got stuck with JDK 1.8, but so soon the world will upgrade it to JDK 1.11. Okay, most of the Java Oracle maybe will announce so soon, like they will start support for Java 1.8, but not sure how the how this I mean the other technologies are going to take over, right? Like how the all the companies, right? So not sure what will happen, but if any new project is going to be started, start with JDK 1.11, not with 1.8. Okay, so still you are writing 1.8 features, that's fine, but use underlying JDK should be, I mean the underlying JDK should be Java level. Okay, so that you will get this reactive programming and some other further benefits also there. Okay, so Java 11 is a major release. After Java 8, Java 11 is a major release. Okay, so even though we have reactive support in Java 9, so we are not considering Java 9 is a major release because it's already there, right? So there is nothing new. Java 11 is a major release, so there are some, I mean, huge changes are happened, and from Java 9 onwards, so they introduced some other concepts called modules and all. So it will take some time to upgrade, right? So it will take some time for us to upgrade. But anyway, any new project you are going to start, try to do with the JDK level, okay? Not with 8, 9, 8, 9, 10, okay? Go for 11. So that is the most stabilized version. And yeah, so see, as of March 2020, Java 8 and Java 11 are supported as long-term support, right? So they are considered as long-term support, not 9, 10, right? So 7, 6 and all, no. So minimum version is 8, but it's recommended to use 11. Okay. Yes. And for every 6 months, there is a new version is going to release. Even I don't know what are all the features are present in Java 14. I'm not, not. I mean, I'm not just following this every 6 months release. Okay. Yeah. So that's fine. Okay, so we are going to use Java 1.8 and third-party library. Java 1.8 and third-party library. So there is no problem when you upgrade it to Java 1.9. So it will automatically work, right? So it's going to be working because that is the third-party library. There is no dependency with Java. Okay, yes. So this is all about history and the problem. Okay, why Java is not part of yeah, reactive programming is not part of JDK 1.8 and why it's part of JDK 1.9, and what is Project Reactor and what is RX Java, what is Akka streams and what is reactive streams. Okay, what is Akka streams and what is reactive streams. Okay, and yeah, so what is flow, right? What is the flow class in Java 1.9? Okay, how this is going to make difference with JDK 1.8 reactive streams. Okay, so this is all about history. So as a Java guy, you should know all these things. Okay, what is Project Reactor and what is RX Java? At least that part you should know. Okay, and these are the classes. Okay, so this is the API, Java 9 API. So java.util.concurrent.flow is outer class, and these are the inner interfaces. Okay, yes. And Java 9 versus reactive stream, if I put side by side, this is how it looks like. Okay, this is the left. This first one is Java 9, and this is the Java 8. Okay, so if it is Java 9, so it's part of JDK. Java 8, it's not part of JDK. It's a third part. So you see the right, there is no difference. It's just a package difference. Okay. Yes. Okay. So with respect to reactive programming, so there are 8 levels are available. Okay. So it's part of JDK 1.0 itself, right? It's runnable and multi-threading, but it's not like fully fledged, right? Full-fledged, right? So Java 1.8, sorry, Java 1.0, we have thread and runnable for asynchronous support. So level 2 is JDK 1.5 executable service callable feature, and Java 1.9 4chan pool, right? So the thread pool, inbuilt thread pool support is available. Yes, and 1.8 is awesome feature, completable feature. Yes, 1.9 is flow and the reactive streams. Java 11 is going to be HTTP2 client API adoption, right? So that is an awesome. Okay, Java 11 HTTP2 is an awesome. Okay, but outside of Oracle, right? So it's part of JDK. So this is part of JDK, but outside of JDK, so the level 6 we have like reactive libraries, right? RX Java, Reactor, Project Reactor, RX Java. But RX Java and Reactor, they are not like support, like framework support, right? So to get the framework support, microservices framework support, we need to use like Kafka streams, Spring Project Webflex, right? Spring Webflex, Kafka streams, and some Vortex is that. I'm not sure. I never I never check for that. Let me check. Vortex, right? So who is the owner for this? Oh, it's a part of Eclipse. Okay. Eclipse Vertex is a toolkit for building reactive applications on JVM. But okay, scale. Okay, they are supporting all technologies: Scala, Kotlin, Scala, Ruby, Groovy. Oh, good. But it's fine. Okay, we are not going to learn Vertex. Okay, we are going to learn Project Reactor. Mm, okay, yes. So this is what is the difference, right? So Rx Java, Reactor, Scala, MongoDB Reactor, all those are libraries. So framework level support, we have Vertex and Spring and Kafka. So we are going to use Spring Webflex, right? Framework level, it's a Spring Webflex. The core library is Project Reactor. Okay, Project Reactor. So any questions till now? Okay. Any questions? If no questions,
No,
no
no,
questions.
no, Sunil.
Abhiram,
Trying to understand, little bit different actually.
yeah, the coding style also will change a little bit. It's like
Mm,
I hope you remembered our session 3 or session 4, right? Java streams,
streams, yeah,
right? Most of the time, right? It's a stream API. Let's call it a stream
yeah,
API,
Stream API, yes,
right? Most of
1.8.
the programming is like kind of stream API, right? It mostly look like stream API is a full of functional programming, right? So it's
Yes,
like Java streams, but reactive streams also kind of similar, but they behave little different, right? They behave little different. Yes. So let's jump into Project Reactor. When it is coming to Project Reactor, there are only two classes we are going to focus, right? Mainly two classes. One is mono and another one is flex. One is mono and another one is flex. So that's what I said, right? Understanding is little difficult, but implementation is pretty easy. Only two classes, mono, flex, mono, flex. Okay. So don't get confused and don't get panic. Okay. So there is only two classes we are going to learn, right? But these are big classes. Okay, they are not like 100 to 100 lines. Mono has 5,000 lines, flex has 10,000 lines. We don't go line by line, we will learn the methods, very important methods which are present in flex and mono. Okay, so let me play one video. Okay, so um, okay, so I just trying to show you, right? So you have to consider this reactive program, even though it looks good, I mean, even though it looks new, and don't panic. Okay, so you just think like this. That rat cooking food movie you might have seen, right? Yeah, it's me, right? It's me who is teaching the things and you are getting panic. Reactor project came. Okay, so don't be panic, nothing else. You should think reactive programming is going to be another model, right? Or another paradigm in the Java, right? Yeah. Okay, don't be panic. It's just another paradigm in Java, right? So another paradigm in the software. That's it. Don't think too much about it. Okay, its implementation is pretty easy. Okay, so don't get confused, don't get nervous. Okay, so by looking into this API and confusion, okay, so don't think it's too much. Okay, just you need to do hands-on. Okay, it's pretty easy when comparatively with other older versions of Java. Project Reactor is pretty easy and more functional, more readable. Okay, there are so many benefits we are going to get. So you must try reactive programming for sure. Okay, you have to do practice. That's it. Only the thing you need to do is just practice, practice, practice. So for sure, till now, whatever we are discussing, whether you are practicing or not, okay. But from now, today, whatever we are discussing, you have to practice. Okay, yes. Yeah, so let's come back. Okay, let's come back. So only two classes we are going to focus, right? Mainly two classes. One is mono and another one is flex, right? So we are going to learn only Project Reactor and Spring Webflex. So Project Reactor is a library. So Spring Webflex is kind of framework. Okay, so it's going to use mono flex. Again, it's going to use mono and flex. Okay, so when to use mono, when to use flex. Okay, if you are going to store one or two, right? One or two, I mean zero or one element. Okay, zero or one, no data are mostly one element, right? So get mobile by id, get country by code, mobile accessory, right? Get mobile accessory by code, right? So these kind of things, right? When you would like to hold zero or one element, then use mono. Okay, so when you would like to hold zero or n elements, you can use flex. Okay, so by looking into this statement, right, by just hearing this statement, you might thinking why we need mono when flex can hold mono data, right? Because it can hold 0 to 1 also. When it is 0 to n, why can't it hold 1? Why we need a separate class called mono, and why should we waste our time to learn about mono? Any guess? It's something like um, it's something like this, right? So for example, your bike, two people can sit. Car, like four people can sit. So when car can, like I'm booking two, right? Bike and car, like, right? So you can ask me
Because
why you book the bike when
no,
we can, two people can sit in the car. Why you need a bike? It's unwanted waste of money. So
because
just compare.
car cannot like just as like everywhere we cannot use flux, right? Like based on the requirement only. Because some places you cannot take that big
Exactly,
thing.
exactly.
In
Right?
Hyderabad, you cannot take this to Charminar car like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so why we have this separate class, because if it is one element, we process different. If it is group of elements, we process different. Okay, so if it is going to be hold only one element, so we process differently, right? So when it is a group, we process different. For example, when it is a group, you call for each, but if it is one, you don't call for each, right? So we need for each for flex, but we don't need for each for mono. So if when you know you're gonna get only one entity, when you know you're gonna get only one entity, why should you go and learn unwanted things, right? Why should you overburden yourself like grouping, right? For each filter, right? Because if it is only one thing, why what you gonna filter? Okay, so only one data, what you gonna filter? You can apply if condition direct, right? So why we need a filtering? Why we need a for each here? Okay, so why we need some other operations when the data is only one, right? So we have different mechanisms to process one element, to process group of elements. So that is the reason why we have flex and move. Okay, so why we have bike and car? So bike is like one person can sit and it can, you can travel, right? So you can travel in small roads also, but car is not like that, right? So like it can hold four, but you need more fuel, you need big roads, right? And so the arc, I mean, the process is different. So that is the reason why we have two there. Here also it's the same, right? So mono means, okay, for sure anybody can guarantee it's maximum it can hold only one element. If there is no other chance, you can get more than one element. Okay, so when you know that, you can process differently. When you know, okay, when the return type is flex, right? So when you get a flex, which means, okay, there are more than one element, so you have to handle that carefully, right? So you have to handle that. You should consider you are handling a group. You are handling a group. Okay, so when it is mono, make sure it's like only one. Okay, so fun in fun model, if I wanted to tell, okay, just for fun, I'm just telling. Okay, mono is like kind of wife. Okay, so flex is kind of girlfriends, right? So yeah, you can have multiple girlfriends, right? Yes, obviously when you go to girlfriend, you talk differently. When you go to wife, you talk differently, right? The sound, voice sound itself will will change, right? Yes. So when it is mono, you can think it's like, okay, wife, like only one for life. So flags means girlfriends. Yes, you can have multiples, no problem. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you process the data differently, and for mono, and you process the data differently for flex. Okay. So mono means only one data. Flex means like you can get zero or multiple, zero or multiple. Okay. So if you have like zero girlfriends, good. If you have more than zero, then it's bad. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, just for fun understanding purpose, I put it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so this is all about mono. But if you go to any site, any tutorial, when they talk like project reactor monoflex, or they show this diagram. Okay, that's it. All the confusion starts. What is this dots? What is this operator? What is this X mark, right? Okay, you go to any site, you just parallelly now you can open in your computer. Okay, so just side by, you just type spring project reactor or spring webflex. Any site they put this diagram. Okay, so it is already there in project reactor. Okay, go to project reactor documentation. So there are so many projects are there. Okay, so there are so many projects are there. Project core, reactor test, reactor extra, reactor neti, reactor Kafka, reactor RabbitMQ, right? So there are so many are there. Let's get into reactor core. Reference release. Go to reference release. Yeah. So this is the complete documentation about project reactor core reactor. If you just scroll down, you see monoflex. Okay, monoflex. Yeah, how to add this into project, like that they are telling. We no need to do. We will add webflex, right? So webflex automatically, webflex take care about these internal dependencies. We no need to add any extra dependencies. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But scroll down. Yeah, somewhere, yeah, it's a very beautiful material. Like why we need, why what is the issue with the blocking, and why asynchronous won't work, and why should we go for project reactor. So why should we go for project reactor? But the benefits we will discuss later. Okay, futures we will discuss later. Let's scroll down. Yeah, you see, right? Only two classes, flex and mono. Flex and mono. Okay, then immediately they'll show this diagram. Okay, this is flex and this is mono, or this is how the flex will work and this is how the mono will work. But are you able to understand how it is working by looking into this diagram? Hello?
Yeah, Sunil. One sec. Seeing that on this timeline.
I'm for sure if you look for 1 hour also, you won't understand. Even I spent around 1 week to 10 days to understand the diagram. How can you understand in 1-2 minutes? If you're already working, if
Just
you're
looking like some
working,
colorful walls. That's it.
right? So this what we call is a marbles, right? So these colors we call it as marbles. Okay, marbles. I will show you. There is one nice app is there, how to play with these marbles, and how to learn this flex and mono. Okay, so how fun model, how we can learn it. But before that, we should understand the basic, right? What is this first line and what is the second line and what is this operator? Okay, so I will cover a couple of examples later. We will come back to this diagram. That time you will understand what is this first line and what is the second line, what is that operator is meant to be. Okay, so flex means like multiple, like more than one element it can hold. That's why we have more colors. But when we go to mono, it's going to hold only one, right? So only one element. So it's going to hold only one marble, right? So only one color. So it cannot hold more than one. Okay, more than one it cannot hold. So what is this operator? What is this X mark? What is this dot dot? Right? So we will discuss. Okay, they are trying to introduce. I mean, tell everything about flex in only one diagram. So that's the reason why it makes a lot of confusion. Okay, so that is the reason why it makes a lot of confusion. But after seeing couple of examples, you will understand. Okay, what is the first line and what is this marble, what is this X mark, and what is this last add. Okay, but before that, yeah. So from here we will start using the methods, right? So as already discussed, these two are classes, right? In Java classes we are going to have methods. So learning about mono and flex is nothing but understanding how, I mean, how the methods are going to behave in that class, right? So it's a equality. We will be learning like how to create flex, how to create mono, how to if you have a collection of data, Java util collection data, how to convert into flex. If you have an object, how to convert into mono, okay, and how to how to extract the data, and how to transfer the data. So all those things are going to be happened by using these methods, okay, methods. Okay, so but before that, let's go back and spend some time on these interfaces, right? On these interfaces, whether it is a Java 9 flow interfaces or Java 8 reactive interfaces, they are same, right? Those are, they are same, there is no difference. Okay, so let's spend some time and try to understand what is publisher and what is subscriber and what is subscription and what is processor. Okay, so first, once we will try to understand these things, then we will go and try to understand this diagram. Okay, okay, so publisher is nothing but who is going to give the data. Okay, publisher is nothing but who is going to publish the data, which is not who is going to, which is nothing but who is going to give the data. For example, okay, you are consuming some service. Okay, like we are writing a client program, right? So I think day before yesterday or some time back we wrote client program, and the client is making a call to mobile service to get the mobile information, right? So client and mobile service. Now tell me, who is the publisher here? Publish will
Mobile
give the
service.
data.
Mobile service.
Yes, right? So publisher is a mobile service. So in the microservices terminology, a publisher is nothing but who is going to hold the data. Who is going to hold the data? So when you call service, so the publisher is service, right? When you are going to call the service, the publisher is going to be service. For example, from the mobile service, you are going to the MySQL DB, right? Yes, we are going. We are going to MySQL DB and we are fetching the DB. Yes. So now this service is going to get the data from the database. So who is the publisher here in this case?
Database.
Right? So database, exactly. Okay. So publisher is nothing but who is going to hold the data, right? So who is going to hold the data? So when it is coming to the reactive programming, so when it is going to reactive programming, so we can say that, okay, so you are writing some publisher, which means you are going to hold some data. So in the project reactor, how we are going to hold the data in terms of mono and flex. So mono and flex are considered implementations of publisher, right? So publisher is an interface. So mono and flex, right? So we already discussed mono is going to hold 0 or 1 element. So we can think, okay, mono is publisher, which is going to hold maximum 1 element. Okay, mono is the publisher which is going to hold maximum 1 element. Flex is a publisher which is going to hold, right, 0 or n element, 0 or n element. So this is what is the difference, right? So these two are publishers only. Okay, learning about mono and flex is nothing but you are going to learn about publishers. These two are publishers. Then where is the subscribe? We will discuss. Okay, so where is the subscribe? We will discuss. Okay, yeah, fine. That we will discuss later. But for now, mono and flex, right? Mono and flex, these two are publishers, right? Implementations of publishers. If you have any doubt, you just go and see the code. So you no need to worry about implementing publisher interface. So it's already available. So project reactor, mono is the publisher, flex is the publisher. So tomorrow if you go to RX Java, for example, whatever we discussed, right? RX Java, right? So reactive streams. So there observable, right? So observable is a publisher. Okay, it is just a class name, that's it. It is just a simple class name. So here is the class name is flex and mono. There the class name is observable. observable. So observable is a publisher. So observable implements publisher interface. Mono and Flex also implements publisher interface. So these are all publishers. Mono is a publisher, Flex is a publisher, observable is a publisher. So they are going to hold the data, right? So they are going to hold the data. So now tell me, because sometimes the same component, it acts like publisher and it acts like subscriber. For example, now client is consuming the data. So you can think, oh, you can consider it because subscriber is going to consume the data. So client is a subscriber, fine. But when it is coming to mobile service, sometimes it acts like publisher, so sometimes it acts like subscriber, right? So how exactly, when what time it acts like subscriber and when what time it acts like publisher? When the data is giving back to the client, so it acts like, okay, when the data is giving back to the client, so it acts like publisher. Okay, but when it is retrieving data, back, right, when it is retrieving data from database, then it act like subscribe, right? It act like subscribe when the data is coming from the database. So our mobile services act like subscriber, and when the data is giving back to the client, it act like a publisher. Okay, so publisher is nothing but who is going to hold the data. Subscriber is nothing but who is going to consume the data. So in this training, who is the publisher and who is the subscriber? Right? I am
You
the
will.
publisher and you are the subscriber, right? So you are the subscriber, right? So I am the publisher. I am sharing some information to you and you are consuming that information. So you are the subscriber. Okay, I am the publisher and you are the subscriber. Sometimes I act like subscriber when I am reading, right? I am learning by myself. So I am also can be a subscriber. When I am reading data, then I am a subscriber. So the same publish. So when I am giving the data, I am a publisher. When I am consuming the data, I am a subscriber. Right? So that is what is publisher and subscriber meant. Okay, but subscriber, your subscriber, I am publisher, but you should do some process to get the data, right? What exactly you are doing? You are attending this training, right? You are joining the meeting, right? So you are joining the meeting, so you should do some process, right? Subscriber should do some process. So that process is called subscription, right? Subscription, right? What you should do, what subscriber should do? Subscriber should perform subscription to get the data from the publisher, right? You are the subscriber and I am the publisher. Yes, we are two different components. How the data is going to be transferred, right? So it's through this training, right? So this training is called subscription, right? So this process of data transformation from publisher to subscriber is called subscription. So you are going to do the subscription to get the data from publisher. So for example, newspaper, right? Every day the news buy will come and give you the newspaper. So you are the subscriber. The owner of that newspaper is a publisher, right? So he's going to prepare the newspaper and he will give it to you. But the newspaper is going to be produced in the mill, right? Newspaper mill, and it's going to be transferred to your home. So how exactly is going to happen? So you should pay some amount, right? You should call that newspaper selling agent and you should do the subscription. So you won't, newspaper seller agent won't give to paper every home, right? He will give it to the persons who subscribe, right? Who did the subscription. For those people, for those houses only, the newspaper is going to be distributed, right? The same concept for magazines, right? So for example, weekly magazines or monthly magazines will be there. So people who read magazines, they do the subscription. So based on their subscription, the publisher will going to distribute the data, right? So the subscription is nothing but the process. What exactly subscription is meant to be? The process. So how the subscriber is going to retrieve the data from the publisher? It's through subscription. It's through subscription. So this entire process, okay, this entire process, subscriber, subscription, publisher is called processor, right? So processor is a group of subscriber and publisher, subscriber and publisher. So we don't write publishers, right? So we don't write publishers. If you go to reactive programming, Okay, so when you go for, okay, let's first statement itself, processor, right? The first question, do I need the processor? Okay, the first question, what should you ask yourself, do I need the processor? Because processor is a combination of publisher subscriber. So when you are using mono, when you are using observable, already there is a processor is available. Okay, so most of the times we don't write processor. Processor is a combination of, right? So processor is a special kind of publisher that also have subscriber. So it's a combination of publisher and subscriber. Processor is nothing but it's a group of publisher and subscriber. Mostly you don't write any processor. Because, right? What is the first question? Do I need a processor? Okay, most of the times you should try to avoid using a processor because it's going to be there inbuilt with the framework and right? So library. So you should know what is processor, but you're not supposed to write the processor. Okay, and because we don't know how to use processor perfectly, so there are so many loopholes will be identified. Okay, if you write your own processor, so there are so many loopholes will be there. But it's also possible to write a processor. It's also possible to write processor. There are predefined processors out there. You can use them, but you must question yourself: do you really need a processor? Okay, mostly we don't need the processor. Even we don't write any processor in our microservices. Okay, we don't write the processor in our microservices. Mostly the processor is going to be implemented by the frameworks, right? Reactive project reactor is going to implement processor. RX Java is going to have processor because they are introducing a library. So when you are writing when you are going to use the library, so you don't need the processor. If you are trying to write your own library, reactive library, that time you need processor. When we need the processor, if you are going to implement a new library for reactive API, then you need implementation. But until unless we are not going to write a new library, we are not going to write public processor. So we most of the times we are going to use libraries, existing libraries. So we don't use processor. So a processor is nothing but this entire process is called processor. Okay, so this entire process, right? So you are joining this training and I'm taking the session, right? This entire concept, right? This entire training, this 60 days training is considered as a processor. So we will not write any processor until unless we are using existing libraries, right? Until unless we are using existing libraries, we will not use, right? We will not write a processor, right? So processor usage is very, 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 very less. So never ever try to write the processor. So if you are trying to write the processor, what will happen? You there are so many loopholes will be identified, right? So there are so many loopholes are going to be identified, right? So there are so many loopholes are going to be identified. Obviously, so try to avoid as much as possible, try to avoid processor, right? So this is all about reactive stream API. So what is a publisher and what is a subscriber and what is a subscription, right? What is a subscription and what is a processor? So subscribe publisher is going to hold the data, right? So publisher is called data source, that people used to call like data source, right? Data source is going to hold the data. So publisher is going to hold the data. The subscriber is going to consume the data. And subscription is the process of consuming, subscriber consuming the data is like called subscription, and from the publisher. So processor is a combination of publisher and subscriber. Mostly we don't write processors, right? Mostly we don't write processors. And one more thing, one more very, 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 very important thing, what I would like to tell: publisher is lazy, right? Publisher is lazy. Even our stream, Java util stream also lazy. Until you use it, that stream cannot be evaluated. The same concept applicable for publisher. Publisher is lazy. Until you subscribe, nothing can be done. Until you subscribe, nothing can be done. So the concept is applicable for monoflex observable, right? So until you subscribe to Mono, until you subscribe to Flex, until you subscribe to Observable, nothing can be done, right? Nothing can be done. So that is the reason why they call, right? We call publisher is a lazy, right? So you have to subscribe. I mean, subscription is a kind of notification, right? So subscription is a kind of notification to the publisher saying that send me the data, right? So send me the data. So until you subscribe, nothing can be done. Then you tell me, then you ask me the question, how can I subscribe to the publisher? How can I subscribe to the publisher? By using operator. How you gonna subscribe to the subscribe publisher? By using operator. So now let's go back to the that color diagram, right? Color marbles diagram. Okay, so this first line is a publisher, right? The first line is a publisher which is going to hold the data. Okay, the first line is a publisher and the second line is subscriber, right? So subscriber. So when it started for very first time, okay, let me take this out from this ppt and we can play with it. Okay, yeah, let's. Okay, so when okay, this is a publisher, right? So this is called publisher, right? So publisher, and the second line is called subscriber. So when it started for the first time, so no dots, right? So no dots, right? So no dots. It's a sequence. Actually, it's a time flow, right? It's a flow. So it's a flow diagram. So that's the reason why you have all these things, right? For example, for the first time when you're subscribing, right? So there is no data will be there, right? So there is no data will be there like this. It will be like it's a blind line. It's a blind line. Okay, let's consider like that. Okay, so it's going to be blind line, right? So how do you gonna subscribe to the publisher? By using some operator. So there are so many operators are there, right? So there are so many operators are there. So by using any one of the operator, you can subscribe to the publisher. So there are like map. We have subscribe method, we have flat map method, right? So we have map method, flat map method, subscribe method. So there are so many subscribe methods are there. There are so many overloaded subscribe methods are there. By using any one of these operator, you are going to subscribe to the publisher. So it looks something like this. You know, it looks something like this. If I put it in the paint, okay. So the first line is a publisher, which is going to hold the data, and second line is a subscriber, right? So how the subscriber is going to do the subscription? By using some operator. So what are all the operators are there? There are so many operators are there. In Project Reactor, we have map, we have flat map. Okay, we have map, we have flat map, we have subscribe, right? So there are so many ways you can do the subscription. So these methods are nothing but operators, right? It's actually called map operator. It's actually called flat map operator, subscribe operator. So this is the terminology of reactive programming, right? So this is the terminology of reactive programming. So the first line is the publisher, right? So first line is the publisher. Yes. Now and the second line is a subscriber, right? So second line is a subscriber. Yes. Okay, yes. Now you the publisher is, I mean, so subscriber is subscribed to publisher by using some operator. For example, think like subscribe method, by using subscribe method. Okay, so one there is an element, right? One there is an element, right? The first element is coming into the publisher, right? Okay, the same data will be transferred to the subscriber. The same data will be transferred to the subscriber. Yes. Okay, the same data is going to be transferred to the subscriber. Okay, think this is the first data, right? So this is the first data, and now there is a second data, right? There is a second data introduced, right? So like let's consider, right? Okay, let's consider there is a second element came into the publisher. Then that element will be, right? That element will be sending to the subscriber, right? So that element will be transferred to the subscriber. Yes, that element will be transferred to the subscriber. Yes, there is a third element. Third element is coming, right? So let's think like, okay, there is a third element is came into the publisher, and it is trying to transfer. Right? So the publisher, right, the subscription is going to transfer the data to the subscriber, but there is all of a sudden some exception occur, right? So happens, right? In the programming, right? So exceptions are common. So if is there any exception occurred, right? If is there any exception occurred, then we will, the data will not be transferred, right? So it's going to be an abnormal termination. So that is what you are seeing here, right? So this particular part, right? So let me take the fresh one. So the first line is the publisher, and the second line is a subscriber, right? So subscriber, and we subscribed by using operator, and the data is transforming, and all of a sudden, is there anything goes wrong? If is there anything goes wrong, then it's an abnormal termination. So the flow will be stopped, right? The flow will be stopped, right? So where is that exception occurred? Automatically the data transformation is going to be stopped, right? So where exactly the error occurred, so there the data transformation is going to be stopped. Okay, so if is there any exception, the data will be stopped then and there, but might be there are like there might be some other, more data will be there, right? So yeah, when before, I mean, without exception, yeah, in publisher may have some more data, no doubt at all. Okay, publisher may have some more data, but while getting the data into the subscription, right? So into the subscriber, while processing the data to the subscriber, so there is some exception. There is some exception. So subscriber will not get the remaining elements, right? Like element one, element two, element three, element four, element five, and element six. So if you get exception while processing element three, so element 4, 5, 6 will not be given to the subscriber. Element 4, 5, 6 will not be transferred to the subscriber. Yes, so that is what is that X mark, right? So that is what is that X mark. Okay, let's think. Okay, let's think there is no exception, right? So let's think there is no exception. Yeah, let's think there is no exception. So what will happen? Then the data will be successfully transferred, right? So if there is no exception, then all the data will be transferred from publisher to subscriber. So third element will be reaching here, and fourth element also will be reaching here, right? Fourth element also will be reaching here, and fifth element also will reach. Like all the data will be transferred. All the data will be transferred, right? All the data will be transferred, and finally there is a successful complete event is going to be triggered, right? So finally there is a successful event is going to be triggered. So finally successful event is going to be triggered. So like this is how the data transformation is going to happen, right? So if there is no exception, right? If there is no exception, then what will happen? So data will be successfully triggered. Data will be successfully triggered, and finally the publisher says that, oh, the data successfully processed. What is the final event is going to be sending to the publisher, right? Successful, right? So success completion, right? It's going to be a successful event, right? So successful event. So that is what is the last arrow. If in case there is no error, right? If in case there is no error, so we don't see this error mark, right? We don't see this error mark, right? So there is no red mark here. So the data will be transferred, right? So the data will be transferred. Finally, once all the data is transferred, we are going to get completed event. What is that last arrow? Completed, right? So complete means successful transformation. Error means unsuccessful, right? Abnormal. So there is, like, we can say like data fully not transferred. When there is an error, data is not fully transferred. Okay, so now let's go to the diagram, try to understand. So the first line is publisher, second line is subscriber, and subscriber is subscriber into publisher through some operator, and once you subscribe, the data will be transferred. If anything goes wrong, then abnormal termination. If there is nothing goes wrong, then it's going to be successful termination. So that is what is there. What is this error, what is this complete error, subscription and all, right? So those are the methods are present in the subscriber, right? So those are the methods are present in the subscriber interface. Okay, let me go to the Java API. Reactive streams, go to this Java API. Okay, open the subscriber. You see that, right? So these are the events, right? On complete. So if the data is fully successfully transferred, right? If the data is successfully transferred, then you will come to know on complete, right? So that is on complete. If there is an exception, so now let's go to the diagram, right? Now let's go to the diagram. So let me take freshly. So now you see when that events are going to be triggered, right? What time that events are going to be triggered. Last 2 minutes I will close. Okay. Yes. So compare these methods with these events, right? So on complete. So this one, right? So this is on complete. Okay. So on error. So this one. So these two will not come at same time. So when the on error come, on complete won't come. On complete comes, on error won't come, right? So these two are two different scenarios, right? When there is an exception comes, on complete won't be triggered, only on error is going to be triggered. On completes, when on completes triggers, so there is no exception. So these two will not be happen in the same flow, right? So these two will not happen at same time. But you see, right, this dot line, the data is flowing. So this is going to happen on next, right? So each on next call, one element is going to be transferred, right? On next. So what is this on subscribe, right? So this operator, by using this operator, that subscription is going to happen, right? So using this operator, the subscription is going to happen. So reactive team trying to explain that entire concept in one diagram. So that's why it is confusing, right? So but it has so many things, right, internally. So error occurs, what happens, without error, what happens, how the subscriber is going to subscribe, how the data is going to be transferred. The entire thing is covered in one diagram. Excuse me. Mono, it's pretty easy, only one element. You subscribe, success scenario, data will come, failure scenario, error will come, right? So success scenario, data will come, failure scenario, error will come. That's it, right? Mono is easy when we compare with flex, right? So when we compare with flex, mono is easy, but it's the same diagram, right? So it's with one mark, okay. So this is all about mono and flex, publisher, subscriber, and why we need reactive programming versus asynchronous programming. Okay, but I didn't cover the benefits, right? Actually, what are all the exact benefits according to this documentation? So there are few benefits I want to highlight. Not this. Go top. Getting started, getting reactor, right? Getting reactor, and yeah, why blocking is wasteful, why asynchronous is risky, right? Why asynchronous is not suitable, and what is imperative to reactive program, how to convert. And so this is what is the benefit, exact benefits. Okay, so we will discuss this tomorrow. Mostly tomorrow also, like 50% is theory, 50% is programming. Okay, today it's fully theory, so that's fine, but it's most valuable information, I believe. Okay, even though it's fully theory, it's like most valuable information, especially for interviews, right? Understanding the core concepts. So this theory concept is very important. And tomorrow we will discuss what exactly the benefit we are going to get, and we will start with that, and we will jump into the code, and we will start writing the code, right? So we will start writing the code. Okay, yeah. Any questions before we wind up the session? Sorry, it's 8 minutes delay. Hello, I'm done.
No,
with
sir. No, sir. No, we need to understand this thing. Last a little bit, I didn't understand. At least we have holiday today. Luckily, we can. I will check on it.
Okay.
Nothing.